The Singapore cable car has been a famous attraction for many years, offering beautiful views of the city's harbour and Sentosa Island. For almost a decade after it first opened in 1974, it was a symbol of modern Singapore, a peaceful ride high above the busy waters below. Millions of people, both tourists and locals, enjoyed the scenic journey between Mount Faber and Sentosa, feeling safe in the little cabins that glided smoothly along the strong steel rope. This popular ride was seen as a safe and enjoyable part of a visit to Singapore, a wonderful way to see the island nation from a unique perspective. But on a fateful evening, this image of safety was suddenly and tragically shattered. On the night of January 29, 1983, a terrible accident happened that no one expected. The giant derrick, which is a tall crane-like structure, on an oil rig named the Eniwetok, struck the main cable of the system. The oil rig was being moved through the harbour by tugboats, but it was not secured properly. The massive vessel drifted off its intended course, and its tall structure collided with the cableway. The impact was immense, shaking the entire system violently. For the passengers who were enjoying the ride at that moment, the peaceful journey turned into a terrifying nightmare in a matter of seconds, plunging them into a situation of extreme danger and uncertainty. The powerful force of the collision caused two cable cars to break loose from the cable and fall. They plunged 55 meters, a very long drop, straight into the dark sea below. This catastrophic event resulted in the tragic deaths of 7 people, including a small child. Their journey, which should have been a pleasant experience, ended in the most devastating way imaginable. The shock of the incident was felt across the entire nation, as people learned about the sudden loss of life at one of the country's most beloved attractions. The news spread quickly, and a sense of disbelief and sadness gripped Singapore. For the other passengers, the horror was not over. While their cabins did not fall, they were left suspended high above the water, trapped in the darkness. A total of 13 people found themselves stuck in 4 different cabins, dangling precariously over the harbour. They were stranded in a frightening situation, unsure of what had happened or if they were still in danger. The entire cable car system was at a standstill, leaving these individuals in a state of terror and isolation. Their ordeal had just begun, and a long, anxious wait for rescue lay ahead of them in the pitch-black night. As soon as the disaster struck, a massive and complex rescue operation was launched. The initial challenge was enormous, as the stranded cabins were hanging at a great height over the dark and unpredictable sea. The Singapore Armed Forces were called in to lead the mission. Military helicopters were dispatched to the scene, marking the first time they would be used for such a civilian rescue. The operation required incredible skill and bravery from the pilots and crew. They had to fly their helicopters very close to the stationary cabins, battling strong winds and the darkness of the night, a task that was extremely dangerous for everyone involved. The rescue was a slow and nerve-wracking process. One by one, brave soldiers were lowered from the helicopters on a winch line. They had to carefully approach each stranded cabin, calm the terrified passengers inside, and secure them for the ascent. The passengers, who included families and children, had to be winched up into the hovering helicopter. This was a highly delicate task, as any sudden movement could have caused the cabins to become unstable. The entire nation watched and waited, hoping for the safe return of every single person who was trapped high above the harbour. A key figure in this dramatic operation was then Colonel Lee Hsien Loong, who played a significant role in coordinating the rescue efforts on the ground. His leadership helped to ensure that the different teams worked together effectively. The entire rescue mission lasted for more than 3 hours, a period filled with tension and uncertainty. Finally, in the early hours of the next day, January 30th, the last passenger was safely brought down. The successful rescue of all 13 trapped individuals was a moment of immense relief for the country, a glimmer of hope amidst the tragedy that had unfolded. The rescue operation became a defining moment for Singapore. It demonstrated the skill, courage, and efficiency of the Singapore Armed Forces in a time of national crisis. The teamwork between the different emergency services was a testament to their preparedness and professionalism. While the disaster itself was a dark chapter in Singapore's history, the successful rescue highlighted the nation's ability to respond to emergencies with great determination. The event was a powerful reminder of the importance of being ready for the unexpected and the strength that can be found in a coordinated response to a crisis. After the immediate crisis was over and the survivors were safe, the focus turned to finding out what went wrong. The Singapore government appointed a commission of inquiry to investigate the disaster thoroughly. This commission had the important job of examining all the evidence to determine the exact cause of the accident and to identify who was responsible. They looked at the actions of the Singapore Cable Car Company, the crew of the Enivetok oil rig, and the Port of Singapore Authority, which manages the harbour. The goal was to ensure that such a terrible event could never happen again by learning from the mistakes that were made. The investigation concluded that the Singapore Cable Car Company itself was not to blame for the accident. The inquiry found that the cable car system was operating correctly and met all the required safety standards at the time. The fault lay with the maritime operations in the harbour below. The primary cause of the disaster was the Enivetok oil rig. The commission found that the people responsible for moving the rig had failed to make sure its derrick was lowered to a safe height before it passed under the path of the cable cars. This was a critical failure in safety procedures. The blame was officially placed on several parties involved with the oil rig and port management. This included the ship's owner, its management agent, and Keppel Shipyard, which was overseeing the vessel's movement. Furthermore, the Port of Singapore Authority was also found to have some responsibility. The inquiry pointed to failures in communication and a lack of proper coordination between the port authorities and the crew of the tugboats moving the rig. There were no clear rules or checks in place to prevent such a tall structure from entering the restricted waterway beneath the cable cars without explicit clearance. Ultimately, the disaster was caused by a series of human errors and systemic failures in maritime safety protocols. It was not a failure of the cable car technology, but a failure of people and procedures on the water. The investigation made it clear that there was a dangerous gap in the rules governing the movement of tall vessels through Keppel Harbour. This clear identification of the root causes was the first and most important step in developing new, stricter safety measures. The findings provided a roadmap for the changes that were desperately needed to protect the public and prevent a repeat of the tragedy. In the wake of the disaster, Singapore took immediate and decisive action to improve safety. One of the very first changes was to reduce the maximum height allowed for any vessel passing through Keppel Harbour. The limit was lowered to ensure that no ship or rig could ever come close to the cableway again. Additionally, new and highly visible warning systems were installed. These included clear height restriction markers and bright lights to alert ship captains and crews about the overhead cables, especially during the night. These measures were designed to create a much larger buffer zone and make the rules impossible to ignore. Major improvements were also made to operational protocols and communication. Stricter regulations were put in place for the movement of any tall vessels. Now, owners of such vessels must give advance notification and receive official approval before they are allowed to pass under the cable car system. This ensures that the cable car operators and port authorities are always aware of any potential risks. Communication channels between all parties, the port, the vessel owners and the cable car company, were greatly improved to ensure that everyone has the right information at the right time, preventing any dangerous misunderstandings. The cable car system itself underwent significant upgrades. After being closed for 7 months for extensive repairs and rigorous testing, it reopened with renewed public confidence. Over the years, the system has continued to evolve. In 1994, new and larger cabins were introduced to increase capacity. A major overhaul between 2009 and 2010 saw the entire ropeway replaced with a more advanced system, and the cabins were raised even higher above the sea. More recently, new cabins with glass floors have been added, showing a continued commitment to providing a modern and secure experience for all passengers. The 1983 disaster was a painful lesson for Singapore, but it led to lasting positive changes. The incident forced a comprehensive review of safety standards, not just for the cable car, but for the busy port as well. The tragedy spurred the creation of robust emergency response plans and regular joint drills involving multiple agencies. ensuring the country is better prepared for any future crisis. Today, the Singapore cable car is one of the safest in the world, a direct result of the hard lessons learned from that tragic night. It stands as a powerful example of how a nation can face a tragedy, learn from it, and build a safer future.